In 401 BC, 10,000 elite Greek soldiers marched into a narrow mountain pass in the Middle East. They expected a standard march back from Babylon. Instead, the sky above them shattered. Massive boulders rained down from the sheer cliffs. The men dropping those rocks were the Carduchoi. They answered to no king, paid no tribute, and wielded 2-yard-long heavy bows that easily pierced Greek armor. For centuries, empires had learned to avoid their territory. If you want to understand who those fierce Highlanders were, join us. Today we are digging through thousands of years of archaeological clay, stone, and bone to trace the indigenous roots of the Kurdish people. Their survival comes down to the terrain. The Zagros mountain range acts as a colossal natural fortress. This wall of rock protected its inhabitants from foreign armies while incubating one of the longest continuous civilizations in the Middle East. 60,000 years ago, during the freezing grip of the last ice age, the deep limestone caves of the Zagros provided a vital sanctuary. Early hominids, including neanderthals, occupied these rock walls for generations. In the 1950s, excavations inside Shanidar Cave revealed a discovery that stunned researchers. They unearthed a skeletal frame that was completely dusted with prehistoric flower pollen. Someone had gathered vibrant blossoms to lay over their dead, providing early physical proof of abstract thought and burial rites in the region. When the ice finally retreated, about 12,000 years ago, the descendants of these mountain dwellers moved into the foothills. There, they began observing wild grasses and roaming herds, triggering the global agricultural revolution. Sites like Jarmo and Ganj Dareh show the exact locations where humans first managed to domesticate wild wheat, barley, and livestock. They built permanent mud brick homes and sculpted clay figures to honor their deities. These early Neolithic farmers established the first settled societies in the Zagros. The tools and agricultural methods born in these mountains created a cultural blueprint that would persist in the region for thousands of years. Down on the plains of southern Mesopotamia, civilization took a different path. By the late 4th millennium BC, the Sumerians had developed urban centers and writing. They used it to document their neighbors in the high country. This is a 4,000-year-old circular clay tablet containing ancient Sumerian cuneiform script. In records like these, we find the earliest written identifier for the northern highlands, Kurta or Karda. In the Sumerian tongue, Kur translates to mountain. They were explicitly documenting the people of the mountains. Over the next 1,000 years, powerful highland confederations emerged from these peaks. Groups known as the Gutians and the Lullubi grew so militarily dominant that by the 22nd century BC, they marched down the slopes and overthrew the Akkadian Empire, ruling Babylon themselves for nearly a century. These cuneiform tablets place mountain-dwelling powers at the center of the Bronze Age. These groups operated as organized, sovereign neighbors to the cities of the plains long before the classical era. This ancient stone relief depicts the Assyrian war machine in action. By the 1st millennium BC, Assyria launched relentless annual campaigns into the northern mountains, seeking timber, grain, and horses. But the Highlanders, documented by the Assyrians as the Nairi and the Cardu, utilized the punishing topography of the Zagros to wear down the Assyrian armies, maintaining their independence through guerrilla warfare. As regional powers shifted, the name of these Highlanders evolved across different languages. The Sumerian Guti shifted to the Akkadian Kurti, which the Greeks recorded as Carduchoi, and the Romans as Corduene. The modern word Kurd is a direct phonetic descendant of these ancient identifiers. In the 8th century BC, these independent tribes united. Under the leadership of a chieftain named Diogetes, the scattered clans of the Zagros merged to form the Median Empire. The Medes consolidated the mountainous territory. They established the Indo-European language branch, their vital social structures, and ancient traditions like Naros that form the backbone of modern Kurdish identity. Across millennia, the flatlands of the Middle East have been rewritten by waves of foreign conquest, but the Zagros acted as a shield. Its sheer cliffs and harsh winters absorbed those invasions, allowing its inhabitants to maintain their autonomy. The Kurdish people are the heirs to that long record of survival. They represent a lineage that stretches back to the pioneers who first cultivated these slopes at the dawn of civilization. In Part 2, we will analyze modern DNA evidence, the Crusades, and the Islamic era to track this lineage into the modern age. Does this evidence suggest we should view the history of the Middle East as a narrative of mountain survival? Let us know what you think in the comments. In the 7th century, the Sassanid Empire collapsed, and a rapid wave of Islamic conquests redrew the political map of the Middle East. For many ancient populations, this transition resulted in total assimilation. They adopted the customs of their conquerors and lost their mother tongues. The Kurdish tribes, however, maintained their linguistic and cultural identity. This survival was largely dictated by the terrain. The vast, rugged topography of the Zagros Mountains functioned as a natural fortress, providing a biological and cultural shield for the indigenous people living within it. The Kurdish tribes became a central military and political pillar of the Islamic world, maintaining their autonomy during the early caliphates. To see exactly how they built this influence, make sure to hit the subscribe button as we continue our dive into Kurdishpedia's historical archives. Their post-antiquity timeline demonstrates continuous indigenous sovereignty, anchored in a geographic region where nearly every other ancient border was eventually erased. By the 9th and 10th centuries, prominent Muslim geographers like Masudi and Ibn Hawqal were documenting the region's demographics in detail. They recorded the Rumum al-Akrad, Kurdish tribal unions, that managed the agricultural economy and controlled major trade routes across the Zagros. Before the Seljuk Turkish invasions reached the region, the Middle East experienced the Daylamite Kurdish Renaissance. 3 highly civilized Kurdish kingdoms governed the area: the Hassanlids in the central Zagros, the Marwanids in Diyarbakir, and the Shaddadids stretching into the Caucasus and ancient Armenia. The Marwanid emirs turned the plains of Diyarbakir into an international hub of commerce, enforcing strict religious tolerance toward Christians and Jews. Further north, the Shaddadids executed massive infrastructure projects, constructing large stone bridges across the Aras River to facilitate intercontinental trade. By the 12th century, this localized power expanded to a global scale through the rise of Salah al-Din, known in the West as Saladin. He traced his direct ethnic roots to the Kurdish Rawadid tribe, who had migrated from the Armenian city of Dvin into Syria and Egypt. Through military strategy and political alliance, he united a massive territory stretching from Egypt to Yemen. In 1187, his armies broke the Crusader stronghold at the Battle of Hattin, recapturing Jerusalem after 88 years of European control. Contemporary European records emphasize his conduct during these campaigns. His strict moral code and specific acts of clemency toward prisoners of war and native Christian populations permanently etched the image of the noble Kurdish warrior into Western historical memory. Long before foreign imperial powers drew the modern borders of the Middle East, the region's geopolitical and cultural heights were actively engineered and defended by sovereign Kurdish dynasties. We do not have to rely solely on written texts to track this presence. The monumental stonework and cities built across the region provide a physical timeline of unbroken habitation. Take the Erbil Citadel in Iraqi Kurdistan. Sitting atop a massive ancient mound, it ranks among the world's oldest continuously inhabited sites, occupied without interruption from the 5th millennium BC straight through to the Islamic Muzaffarate era. Over in Turkish Kurdistan, the city of Diyarbakir is surrounded by miles of dark basalt stone walls. Carved into this defensive stonework are Kufic inscriptions, commissioned by the Marwanid emirs, documenting Kurdish administration over this urban center. Nearby, the city of Mardin functions as an impregnable eagle's nest. Its vertical, multi-layered stone architecture is built directly into the hillside, blending ancient Assyrian foundations with extensive expansions by local Kurdish rulers. Further east, in Iranian Kurdistan, the Ardalan Emirate governed a large portion of the Zagros for centuries. Their cultural refinement is visible in Sanandash, where structures like the Persian garden-inspired Khosrabad mansion display sophisticated brick and tile work. Today, these locations are divided by modern political borders across Iraq, Turkey, and Iran. Historically and architecturally, this chain of fortresses and markets constitutes a single, verifiable indigenous footprint. To confirm the architectural and textual record, we can look at the microscopic level. Human DNA provides a biological timeline that cannot be rewritten or erased by later conquerors. In recent years, geneticists have sequenced DNA extracted directly from ancient skeletons, found at Neolithic Zagros sites, such as the early farming settlement of Ganj Dareh. This chart displays the genetic continuity. Modern Kurds possess a 75% genetic overlap with the original Stone Age farmers of the Zagros Mountains. Looking at specific molecular lineages, we find a high frequency of haplogroup J2. As this marker is native to the Fertile Crescent, its presence disproves the theory that Kurds migrated from Central Asia or North Africa. They originated exactly where they live today. A secondary genetic layer, haplogroup R1a, appears alongside the indigenous Zagros markers. This points to the ancient Medes, representing the Indo-European migrations that eventually shaped the modern Kurdish language. The genetic data indicates that the Kurds are an unmixed amalgamation of pre-Indo-European Zagros natives and ancient Aryans. The topography of their mountain home physically shielded them from the severe genetic blending brought by later Mongolian and nomadic invasions. We have tracked this lineage from the Neanderthal remains of Shanidar Cave 60,000 years ago, through Sumerian Cuneiform, Saladin's campaigns, and into modern molecular biology. This biological and architectural timeline confirms that the Kurdish people are the original inhabitants of this land, a continuous presence in the Zagros mountain ranges that has outlasted the rise and fall of every neighboring empire. Kurdishpedia is dedicated to digitizing and protecting this legacy against the storms of history. To help preserve and share these records, subscribe to the channel, share this video, and explore the archives.